Hi, Colleen. Welcome to the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast. I'm excited to be speaking with you today.
Yeah, very glad to be here, Andrew. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, when I was doing some prep for this conversation and I was diving into your LinkedIn profile, I was so impressed with your marketing trajectory over, 10 plus years. And I'd love to uh, allow you to catch us up to speed. How did you get to HealthWay through this amazing marketing trajectory you've been on? What's your role at the organization, and what does the day in the life of Colleen look like?
Absolutely. I've actually been in marketing and digital for over 20 years. And it's been quite an adventure of a career. I think in my last three jobs, what's been very interesting is that I haven't been looking for a job. Recruiters have called me and they've actually found me through LinkedIn, which I've loved. And in my most recent role here as VP of Marketing at HealthWay, I am actually responsible for both B2B and B2C marketing, which is, can be challenging at times because they're two very different animals, so to speak. And the other thing is that our company is private equity backed. So we're very, very focused on results, deliverables, KPIs. And honestly, that was something that I think I was missing in larger companies in terms of not only putting in the hard work, but very quickly seeing the results of that work, which I think makes it a lot of fun because you kind of get that immediate gratification of great feedback or coaching feedback if improvements are needed. So.
Can you share a little bit more on the difference of being at an existing company that's private equity backed versus the larger corporations? Is it, more KPI focused? Is it more results oriented? Is it just a more fun environment? You're doing something innovative with this, potential acquisition along the way or IPO, whatever that looks like?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing that's different, this is a much smaller company that I've been in a very long time, and then I am very autonomous in my role, so I get to make a lot of decisions, who to hire, which agencies to bring on, what campaigns should look like, which is fun. But then on the flip side, I'm also accountable for all of that, and I like it because I'm, confident in my ability to deliver, and so it makes it a lot of fun, and then also I have a lot of opportunity to kind of take risks, right? Kind of supporting new projects or doing market research on new products, things like that. When you're in a larger role, in a larger company, you have a lot less latitude to kind of move around. And typically, you may be the decision maker, but you've also got to get, buy-in from others. And most of the time, the business is very kind of established. So I was digital employee number one at Napa Auto Parts in 2012. So had a lot of autonomy and a lot to do, but I also had to fit into a larger context, which was fun and enjoyed it. But at the same time, I really like being later in my career and having kind of all the autonomy and the challenge that I do. So.
You mentioned at HealthWay you're doing B2B and B2C initiatives. Can you share, the differences of B2B, B2C, what you're learning in this current role where you're needing to balance both simultaneously? Usually here, I'm a B2B marketer, I'm a B2C ecom person.
Oh, absolutely. So, for those familiar with, B2C or specifically D2C e-commerce, it's every day you're coming in, you're looking at your numbers, you're optimizing. I have set up our Amazon business. And so we're selling about 20 SKUs on Amazon. Amazon is a beast in and of itself in terms of understanding, kind of inventory and pricing and all of those types of things. And at the same time, we also have our own website where we're doing a lot of content, paid media, that kind of thing. The sales cycle for an air purifier is very quick. Usually, you're sick, you've got a child with asthma. It's not a long consideration period. And so we are basically in market looking to drive sales today. And so we're planning for the future, but today is really the focus. When we look at B2B, we put air purification systems in big buildings. We're, for example, in Rockefeller Center in New York. We're in some hospitals, hotels, things of that nature. And we work with manufacturers, representatives, and kind of folks who spec in products into large buildings. That deal cycle can be anywhere from 90 days to 18 months. And they're much larger deals. So it's not somebody buying a $200 air purifier online. We're in, we're out, and then we put them into an email drip campaign. We've got to be building relationships. So it's not only online marketing, social media and email and such, but it's also kind of what I would call relationship marketing. So hospitality, taking them out to dinner, going to events, lunch and learns in their offices. We've got to kind of remain top of mind so that when they come in and they have a deal, like for example, someone's building a new hospital, we want to be spec'd in there. So it's kind of like you've got to always keep awareness, but you don't necessarily have a formula like on the D2C side where, I spend X dollars in paid media and then I get X dollars in revenue back. So it's more of a kind of an art than a science on the B2B side.
Right. When I bought this Yeti microphone, I think I took a total of 15 seconds on Amazon, found something that was in my price range. It had not a ton of negative reviews and just one click purchase. And so with B2B, I'd love for if you can dive a little bit deeper into what you mentioned around touch points of that buying cycle might be upwards of 18 months. And anything you've even noticed in your 20 years as a marketer, how those touch points might have shifted with the internet, really coming on board in the last 2 decades.
Well, so, before the internet, which I think I've always been marketing with the internet there, it has just changed significantly. And now today it's all about content. And so getting the content in front of the right folks on LinkedIn, getting their email address, getting them to a webinar, for example, to kind of basically show them what we have and show them why they should care about air purification, especially in a post-COVID type of area. And then once we get their email address, we'll send them emails, we'll invite them to like an online wine tasting, for example, and try to keep that connection up. But B2B is really about relationships. Whereas, B2C, not so much. But essentially, if someone is taking our product and they're recommending it to their customer, they really got to trust us. And they have to trust us from a commercial perspective that we're going to give them the best deal that we can. We're going to be around long enough to service the product and see, future generations of the product. And they've also got to know that, the product is good and that it's going to work as designed. So we also do a lot of testing. So for example, kind of go into one area and put something on one floor of a building and test it out. And then what we're trying to do is a lot of videos to show, kind of here's what the air quality looks like before we put something in, and here's what it looks like after, to kind of tell that story. Because what I will tell you is it's hard to sell clean air. Just as, tap water, you say, would you drink tap water? A lot of people prefer bottled. Well, would you drink tap, or would you breathe tap air? And so it can be challenging at times on the B2B side.
I want to dive deeper into what you just mentioned around storytelling. This is on my mind before this conversation. And I was thinking about how growing up in the 90s, when I thought about giving back to causes, it was, really sad stuff, starving children. It was, the dog commercials, if you remember any of those from the 90s. And I could see with HealthWay in the 90s, that being the story that maybe was told, is that there was so much intense emotion around this product. But how are you telling the story in the 2024 environment?
Well, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that is important to us is that we not remind people of a relatively dark time in recent history, which was during COVID. So what we are doing is going after folks who have particular, breathing issues, asthma. A lot of people have, pets and pet dander, or perhaps they live in a polluted area. So larger cities, things like that. So we're doing a lot of very targeted marketing from that perspective. But I mean, it's always, problem solution.
Mhm.
And then also you have a lot of opportunity for bringing in subject matter experts. So we work with Michael Rubino, who's kind of a known mold remediation specialist, for example. And what we find is people do listen to our influencers. And then people also react well to the problem solution type of approach.
What do you enjoy most day to day in your role at HealthWay? What gets you
So
most excited? We're doing this on a Friday. It's going to be Sunday soon. What are you thinking about on Sunday that you're excited to dive into at the start of the week?
So, private equity is known as a very difficult space to work in. So when you're in a big company, you have a lot of insulation. You've got somebody above you, people, beside you. And here in my role, I am responsible for marketing and for a large portion of sales. And I mean, maybe I'm a race car driver at heart, but I love working as hard and working to my potential and also hiring a great team, bringing them along and then delivering those results to our investors and our board of directors. And I really enjoy the back and forth because they'll ask us tough questions and we give them
Mhm.
responses. And as an executive, you don't necessarily get a lot of like career challenge from that perspective where there's a little bit of a feeling in your gut, like, I know I've done my best, but have I really done my best? And that's very encouraging to me because I do feel like sometimes in really large companies, your hard work may be, lost a bit.
Mhm.
And so, there's a lot of self-motivation that comes along, but, when I'm in front of, kind of our board, our executives, and also like just our sales team, they're like, thank you so much. And this is great. And so just feeling like I'm generating revenue and also that I'm helping others kind of grow in their career is great.
Can you give any advice of how to interact with a board effectively?
So it's kind of like when you're in high school, or when you're in college and you know that the final exam is just going to be one question. And that's what you're going to be, measured on or judged on, shall we say. And so it's very, very important that you know your stuff. And you
Mhm.
also need to know your audience. So, some of our board members are past CEOs of publicly traded companies. So I look very closely at their LinkedIn profiles to try to understand what they might be asking about and what angle they might be coming from. And if it does come up that there's something that they bring up that I don't know about, I say, I don't know, but the next time we meet, I will know. And that's really the best way to go. Don't ever try to wing it and make it up because I'll see right through that. Either you say it, you know it, and you say it with confidence, or you just say, I don't know,
Mhm.
but let me get back to you. And that builds a lot of credibility that, kind of, your skill set, and you also have the confidence to say you don't know, which, is kind of hard sometimes. So.
You mentioned in a prior answer around hiring and hiring marketing talent. Can you give any advice for fellow marketing executives and leaders of what they should be looking for as kind of green and red flags as you're hiring marketing talent?
Yeah, so I always hire for attitude. And
Mhm.
it's a can-do attitude, to some extent, very scrappy, and someone who will basically give anything a try. I have someone on my team right now who, if I ask her to do something, she'll say, yes, let me go do that. Or can you give me some pointers? Let me go give it a try. And that is so very important, to me. In terms of red flags, it would be, people who just don't have an open mind to listening to
Mhm.
others, aren't a good team player, for example, because marketing is not an individual sport, like maybe perhaps practicing law or practicing medicine to some extent. And especially in this, world with social media and content and sharing and everything, you've really got to, have good social skills and be
Mhm.
able to work with people. And also you've got to be able to work through conflict well. So those are kind of, like, for example, I'll ask a behavioral question in interviews about, tell me about a time you had a problem or you encountered a conflict, and tell me about kind of how you worked through that and how you resolved it.
Is there any difference to what you look for now at HealthWay as a private equity backed firm versus at a large corporation, or is marketing talent marketing talent?
No, I mean, we're focused on delivery.
Mhm.
And so we don't have really an opportunity to swing and miss.
Mhm.
Whereas in larger companies, with, fantastic, sales where it's almost like a machine,
Right.
you're kind of contributing to a part of it. But my team, everybody's got to be delivering and everybody's got a key role. There's really no redundancy.
Mhm.
So I'm looking for people who are smart, talented, but also like to take a little risk. And they want the reward as well.
Mhm.
And that comes a little bit slower, I find, at the larger companies.
Mhm.
So
Speaking of risks, I'd love to hear two sides to this. So, what is a marketing fail that you've had over your career that, in hindsight, you've had some lessons you've learned from that? And on the flip side, what is a marketing? I'm using kind of the words campaign, project, whatever the right wording would be, that you're really proud of, that you would tell, a friend at a happy hour.
that's a hard one. There was one company that I was at, and I was asked to take over a CRM project,
Mhm.
a very large CRM implementation, and I had a lot of stuff going on. So kind of the miss that I had was I didn't audit everything as it kind of came into my group's purview. I just said, I'm sure the group before me did a great job. And it ended up that the project had some kind of architectural issues or some fundamental design challenges that required us to stop the project and basically reevaluate and rebuild a lot of it.
Mhm.
So that was a big disappointment that I really had to take on myself, because I really didn't go back and talk to the people I was taking it over from, just kind of assumed everything was in order.
Mhm.
And don't really know what contributed to that situation, but I mean, it was a disappointment for me. And then I probably would have changed the project and the trajectory of the project earlier,
Mhm.
if I would have done that and I would have known. So it always kind of makes me feel, that one always kind of makes me feel
Mhm.
bad. I think in the role that I'm in right now, in my first 3 months, I doubled e-commerce revenue.
Congrats on
And
that.
thank you. We're trying to keep those numbers up this year. That was Q4, during the Christmas and the holiday season. And how I did that was just essentially, coming in, identifying low-hanging fruit, and also putting KPIs in place in terms of, conversion rate, sales, and then looking across, all of the different things that were working and the things that were not. Cut out a lot of things that just maybe people had a lot of heart in, but they
Mhm.
weren't really working. And kind of looking at everything, for me, the relationship is always very important, but you've got to keep your eye on the numbers.
Mhm.
And making sure that we're not just tactically executing. Like, for example, I want a brochure, or I want a landing page. You need to know the overall strategy, and how that strategy is going to contribute to your goals. Which is kind of why I like the digital and the B2C side of things, because digital, you can start getting your results pretty much immediately.
Mhm.
So
So my last question today is thinking into the future in 2024, what is an area of marketing that you're excited about this year? And whether that's something in AI, a new SaaS product you're experimenting with, just good old back in person handshakes at coffee meetups. What's something that's getting you excited in 2024?
Well, so yeah, number one, meeting people in person. I don't think you can ever, replace that. I also think that there are very different dynamics when you meet with people online, especially
Mhm.
group dynamics. So I've experienced kind of different, like working with our agencies. It's much better if I actually go to their office and we meet, because then everybody, we have longer and I have a chance to kind of talk to everybody working on the account, not, for example, just the account manager. And I'm going to give you a second one, and it's probably one you hear a lot, and that's AI. But I think we have to be very, very judicious about how we use AI. So, if everybody starts using AI, machines are going to take over our world, and we're not going to have, an opportunity to add any value. But I think, as an example, like in the content space, being able to create content, making sure there's no, plagiarism, having an AP style edit, also brainstorming on creative ideas. I think we can't just depend on AI, but we can, figure out how it works for us, because
Mhm.
if we start generating all of our content via AI, there's going to be no competition and Google's going to know it. And again, the machines will just take over. So yeah, AI and in person, which I think are probably on two very ends of the spectrum, but those are, kind of two things that are very important to me right now.
It's a great answer, and it's kind of the way I think about marketing in a lot of ways is the blend of art and science, and how, yeah, you can't just be a marketer behind your keyboard, getting out in person, shaking hands, whatever that looks like for the business models is still something that should never go away.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
So Colleen, can you leave us with best ways to follow up with you, learn more about HealthWay if someone wants to follow up?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Colleen Romero. And I don't think there are too many Colleen Romeros out there, and definitely the only one in Atlanta. So that's probably the best way to go, or see Romero at healthway.com.
Perfect. Thank you for your time today, Colleen.
Thank you, Andrew.